Dr. Henry Carter sat at his desk, rubbing his tired eyes. The clock on the wall showed 6 in the evening. Another long day at Riverside Medical Center was finally ending. Henry was a neurologist, a doctor who specialized in problems with the brain and nerves. After 15 years in this job, he had seen almost everything. But life still had surprises waiting for him. He was about to pack up his things when his phone buzzed. A text message appeared on the screen. It was from his cousin, Lisa Martin. "Check your mail today. Something special waiting for you." Message read. Henry smiled. Lisa was his favorite cousin. They had grown up together in the small town of Pinewood, climbing trees and riding bikes through quiet streets. As adults, they didn't see each other as often as they wanted to. They still made time to catch up a few times a year. Henry picked up his bag and left the hospital, nodding goodbye to the nurses at the front desk. The early summer air felt good after a day inside. His apartment was only a short walk away. In a neat building with a small garden out front, in his mailbox, Henry found the usual bills and ads. But there was also a cream-colored envelope with fancy writing on it. He knew right away what it was. Lisa had been dating Jack Peterson for nearly 7 years. Everyone in the family had been wondering when they would finally get married. Open the envelope carefully. Inside was a beautiful invitation with tiny flowers printed around the edges. "Lisa Martin and Jack Peterson request the honor of your presence as they join in marriage," it read. The wedding would happen in just 3 weeks at Lakeview Gardens, a pretty place by the water that Henry had visited once for a work party. He put the invitation on his fridge with a magnet and called Lisa right away. "So you're finally doing it," Henry said when she answered. Lisa laughed. "Yes, can you believe it?" Jack finally asked, "and I didn't want to wait." "I hope you can come on such short notice." "Of course I'll be there," Henry promised. "I wouldn't miss it for anything." "Good," Lisa said, sounding relieved. "Because I've put you at table 3, right near us. I want all my favorite people close." Bye. They talked for a while about the wedding plans. Lisa was clearly excited but also stressed about getting everything ready in time. Henry wished he could help more, but with his busy schedule at the hospital, all he could really offer was moral support. After they hung up, Henry made himself a simple dinner and thought about Lisa and Jack. They were good together. Jack was an engineer who worked for a construction company. He was quiet but kind, the sort of steady person who balanced Lisa's more energetic personality. Henry was truly happy for them. The next few weeks passed quickly. Henry was busy with patients, including a difficult case involving a teenage boy with unexplained seizures. The wedding almost slipped his mind until his neighbor, Mrs. Geller, mentioned she was watering his plants while he was away. "Away?" Henry had asked, confused. "For your cousin's wedding this weekend?" Mrs. Geller reminded him. "You asked me last week." Henry was grateful for the reminder. That night, he pulled his only good suit from the back of his closet and made sure it still fit. He packed a small bag for the overnight stay and wrapped the gift he had bought, a nice set of cooking knives that Lisa had mentioned wanting. The day before the wedding, Henry received another text from Lisa. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Fair warning, Mom is on a mission to set you up with one of my friends. Just smile and nod." Henry groaned. His Aunt Ellen had been trying to find him a partner for years. At 45, Henry was the oldest unmarried cousin in the family. It wasn't that he was against finding someone. His work just took so much of his time and energy. Dating had never been his strong point anyway. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, sunny, but not too hot. Henry drove the 2 hours to Lakeview Gardens, arriving earlier than needed. The venue was even prettier than he remembered, with flowers blooming everywhere and the lake sparkling in the sunlight. Other guests were already arriving. Henry recognized his Aunt Ellen right away. She was directing people around as if she were in charge of the whole event. "Henry," she called when she spotted him. "You're early. Good, good. Come meet Patty. She's Lisa's friend from college. She's a teacher. Very smart." Before Henry could even put down his bag, he was being introduced to a woman with curly red hair and a friendly smile. Patty seemed nice enough, but Henry was saved from awkward small talk when his uncle, Bob, called him over to help with moving some chairs. The ceremony area was set up facing the lake. White chairs were arranged in neat rows, with flowers tied. To the ones along the aisle, a wooden arch covered in more flowers stood at the front. It was simple but beautiful, very much Lisa's style, as more guests arrived. Henry caught up with family members he hadn't seen in years. Cousins with new babies, uncles with new stories, and everyone asking the same question, still working too. Hard? Henry just smiled and changed the subject when he could. An hour before the ceremony, went to the small building where the groom and his friends were getting ready. Jack looked nervous but happy, adjusting his tie for what was probably the 10th time. "The big day," Henry said, patting Jack on the shoulder. "Ready?" "More than ready," Jack replied with a shaky smile. "Been waiting to marry Lisa since our 3rd date. Just wish I wasn't so sweaty right now." Henry laughed. "You'll be fine. Just don't lock your knees during the ceremony. I don't want to have to catch you if you faint." Jack appreciated the doctor humor, and Henry left him to finish. Getting ready. On his way back to the ceremony area, he passed the bridal suite. The door was slightly open, and he could hear women's voices inside, including Lisa's distinctive laugh. Henry was about to walk past when he heard a thump, followed by a soft ah in Lisa's voice. He paused, concerned. "You okay in there?" he called through the partly open door. "Henry, is that you?" Lisa called back. "Yes, I'm fine. Just tripped over my own dress. This thing is more layers than an onion." One of Lisa's friends peeked out through the door, no groom peeking at the bride. "Bad luck," she said, shooing him away. Henry smiled and continued on his way, finding his seat for the ceremony. The music started soon after, and everyone turned to watch the wedding party walk down the aisle. First came Jack with his parents, then the groomsmen and bridesmaids in pairs. Finally, the music changed, and everyone stood up. Lisa appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm. She looked beautiful in her white dress, her dark hair styled with tiny flowers woven into it. She was smiling so widely that Henry couldn't help but smile too. But as Lisa began to walk down the aisle, Henry's smile faded slightly. Something caught his eye, something most people wouldn't notice. There was a slight unevenness in Lisa's walk, a tiny hesitation every few steps. To most guests, the bride was floating gracefully toward her future husband. But to Henry's trained eye, something wasn't quite right. Years of examining patients with neurological problems had made Henry notice things others missed. The way Lisa slightly favored her right leg, the almost invisible way she leaned on her father's arm for support, rather than just tradition. Henry tried to push the thought away. It was a wedding, not a medical exam. Lisa was probably just nervous or uncomfortable in her fancy shoes. But as she passed his row, he caught a glimpse of her face. Behind the smile and happy tears, there was something else, a hint of discomfort, or a strain that most would miss. The ceremony began, and Henry tried to focus on the beautiful words being spoken. But his mind kept returning to Lisa's walk. As a doctor, he had learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts were telling him that something might be wrong with his cousin, something that had nothing to do with wedding day jitters. As Lisa and Jack exchanged their vows, Henry made a mental note to keep watching her throughout the reception. It was probably nothing, he told himself. But if it wasn't nothing, then Lisa's special day might end up being important in ways no one could have imagined. After the ceremony, all the guests moved to a large white tent set up for the reception. Tables covered with white cloths and decorated with flowers filled the space. A wooden dance floor sat in the middle. A band was setting up their instruments. On a small stage, Henry found his seat at table 3, just as Lisa had promised. His place card sat between Patty, the teacher his aunt wanted him to meet, and Lisa's college roommate, Olivia. He greeted them both politely before his eyes drifted. Back to Lisa, the new bride and groom were making their way around the tent, stopping at each table to thank guests for coming. Henry watched as Lisa moved. There it was, again, that slight drag of her right foot, the way she leaned on Jack more than a bride typically would. Most people saw a glowing woman on her wedding day. Henry saw potential symptoms. "Earths to Henry," Olivia said, waving her hand in front of his face. "You're a million miles away." "Sorry," Henry said with a smile, just taking it all in. Lisa said, "You're a brain doctor, right?" Patty asked. "Neurologist." "Yes," Henry answered. "I work with the brain and nervous system." "That must be fascinating," Patty said, clearly trying to keep the conversation going. "Do you like it?" Henry nodded. Very much, every case is different. The human brain is still such a mystery in many ways. Their small talk was interrupted by the clinking of glasses. The best man was standing up to make his toast. Everyone listened as he told funny stories about Jack and Lisa's relationship. Henry laughed along, but his eyes kept returning to Lisa. She seemed to be shifting in her chair frequently, as if trying to find a comfortable position. After the toasts, dinner was served. Henry ate his meal while chatting with the others at his table. He learned that Patty taught third grade and loved hiking. Olivia worked in marketing and had just bought her first house. They were nice people, but Henry couldn't focus on the conversation. His mind kept returning to Lisa's unusual movements. When the music started and Jack led Lisa to the dance floor for their first dance, Henry watched even more closely. They had chosen a slow song, which made it easier for Lisa to move without showing any difficulty. But when Jack spun her gently, Henry noticed her right leg didn't pivot as smoothly as her left. Soon other couples joined them on the dance floor. Henry declined Patty's subtle hints about dancing. He wanted to keep observing Lisa. After about 20 minutes of dancing, Lisa whispered something to Jack and headed toward the restrooms at the back of the tent. Henry noticed she was walking more carefully now, as if concentrating on each step. Most people would think she was just being careful not to trip on her long dress, but Henry recognized the deliberate gait of someone compensating for weakness or numbness. Making a quick decision, Henry stood up. "Excuse me," he said to his table mates. "I need to speak with my cousin for a moment." He caught up with Lisa just outside the restroom area. "Hey there, beautiful bride," he said with a warm smile. "Having fun?" Lisa's face lit up when she saw him. "Henry." "Yes, it's everything I dreamed of." She hugged him tightly. "Thanks for coming. I know how busy you are with work. I wouldn't have missed it," Henry said. Then, trying to sound casual, he added, "Those shoes look pretty uncomfortable." "I've noticed you walking a bit carefully." A flicker of something worry, embarrassment, crossed Lisa's face before she smiled again. "Oh, you know, wedding heels. They're killers. Plus, I'm exhausted from all the planning and excitement." Nodded, but he wasn't convinced. "How long have you been having trouble with your right leg?" Lisa's smile faded. She looked around to make sure no one else was nearby. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who looks at walking problems all day," Henry assured her. "Most people wouldn't notice." Lisa sighed. "It's been happening on and off for a few months. I thought it was just stress, or maybe I pulled a muscle at the gym. It comes and goes." "Any other symptoms?" Henry asked, now fully in doctor mode. "Tingling, numbness, headaches?" "Sometimes my right leg feels a bit numb, like it's fallen asleep," Lisa admitted. "And I've had more headaches than usual. But really, Henry, it's my wedding day. Can we talk about this another time?" Henry felt torn. As a doctor, he wanted to press for more information. As a cousin, he didn't want to worry her on what should be the happiest day of her life. "Of course," he said, "but promise me you'll make an appointment with your doctor next week." "I promise," Lisa said, squeezing his hand. "Now I really do need to use the restroom and then get back to my husband." She smiled as she said the word husband. Henry watched her walk into the restroom, his mind already running through possible diagnoses. The combination of symptoms concerned him. This could be something simple, like a pinched nerve, but it could also be something more serious. When Lisa came out, Henry was still waiting. "One more thing," he said. "Which hospital do you usually go to?" "Westside Memorial." "Why?" Lisa asked. "I know a great neurologist there, Dr. Susan Kelly. I'll give her a call on Monday. Let her know you might be calling for an appointment." Henry tried to keep his tone light, not wanting to scare his cousin. Lisa's expression grew serious. "You're worried, aren't you? Do you think something's really wrong?" Henry chose his words carefully. "I think it's worth checking out properly. It's probably nothing serious, but with symptoms like yours, it's better to be safe." Lisa nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll call on Monday, I promise." She glanced back toward the reception. "But please don't mention this to anyone else today. Especially not to my mom or Jack. I don't want them to worry." "Doctor-patient confidentiality," Henry assured her. "Now go, enjoy your wedding. Just take it easy on the dance floor." Lisa gave him another quick hug before heading back to the reception. Henry followed a minute later, his mind still processing what he had learned. As a doctor, he had delivered serious diagnoses and difficult news to countless patients. But this was different. This was his little cousin, the girl who had followed him around when they were kids. Back at the reception, the party was in full swing. Jack had removed his jacket and was dancing enthusiastically with his friends. Lisa sat at the head table, watching and smiling. To anyone else, she looked like a happy bride taking a rest. To Henry, she looked like someone in discomfort trying not to show it. Henry made his way to the bar and ordered a club soda. The bartender, a young man with a friendly smile, handed him his drink. "Not joining the dancing, sir?" "Not much of a dancer," Henry replied. "I'm more of an observer." And observe he did. For the next hour, Henry watched Lisa carefully while trying not to be obvious about it. She danced to more slow songs with Jack. She cut the cake, smashing a small piece into Jack's face and laughing. She tossed her bouquet, which was caught by an excited teenage girl. Through it all, Henry could see the effort she was making to move normally. Around 11 o'clock, Lisa and Jack prepared to leave. They would spend the night at a nice hotel nearby before flying to Hawaii the next day for their honeymoon. Guests lined up outside to throw rice as the couple ran to their car, which had been decorated with cans and a "Just Married" sign. Henry positioned himself near the end of the line. When Lisa reached him, he gave her a warm hug. "Remember your promise?" he whispered in her ear. "I will," she whispered back. "Love you, cuz." Then she and Jack were in the car and driving away, cans rattling behind them. The guests began to disperse, saying goodbyes and collecting purses and suit jackets. Henry said polite goodbyes to Patty and Olivia. He thanked his aunt and uncle for the lovely wedding. Then he got in his car for the drive home, his mind still full of worry about Lisa. As a doctor, Henry had learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts were telling him that Lisa's symptoms might be signs of something serious. The slight foot drag, the numbness, the headaches, together they pointed to several possibilities, none of them good. He decided to call Dr. Kelly first thing Monday morning. Susan Kelly was one of the best neurologists he knew, and Westside Memorial had excellent diagnostic equipment. With any luck, Lisa would keep her promise and make that appointment as Henry drove through the dark, quiet roads toward home. He hoped he was overreacting. He hoped that in a week or two, Lisa would call him laughing about how she had just pulled a muscle or needed better shoes. But deep down, his medical training told him to prepare for a different kind of call. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and light rain. Henry got to the hospital earlier than usual. For his first patient appointment, he called Dr. Susan Kelly at Westside Memorial Hospital. "Susan, it's Henry Carter," he said when she answered. "I have a favor to ask." "Henry, nice to hear from you. What can I do for you?" Dr. Kelly's voice was warm and friendly. "My cousin got married this weekend. Her name is Lisa Peterson now. She's been having some concerning symptoms that I noticed at the wedding." He described what he had observed and what Lisa had told him about the numbness and headaches. Dr. Kelly listened carefully. "Definitely worth checking out. Do you want me to fit her in this week, if possible?" Henry said. "She's supposed to leave for her honeymoon in Hawaii today, but I'm hoping she'll call you first. I'll keep an eye out for her call and make room." "In my schedule," Dr. Kelly promised. Henry thanked her and hung up. He felt a little better knowing that Lisa would be in good hands if she kept her promise. But as the morning went on with no word from his cousin, he began to worry that she might have decided to ignore the symptoms and go on her honeymoon as planned. Around noon, Henry's phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. "Dr. Carter." "Speaking," he answered. "Henry, it's Jack, Lisa's husband." "Jack's voice sounded strained. "Something's wrong with Lisa. She woke up this morning and couldn't feel her right leg at all, and she's having trouble seeing clearly." Henry felt his stomach tighten. These were more serious symptoms than what he had observed at the wedding. "Where are you now? Still at the hotel?" "Our flight to Hawaii leaves at 3, but Lisa's really scared. She told me you noticed something was wrong at the wedding." "Yes," Henry admitted. "I was concerned about how she was walking." "Listen, Jack, I don't think you should get on that plane today. Lisa needs to see a neurologist as soon as possible." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "That sounds serious." "It could be, yes," Henry said honestly. "I've already Spoken to a colleague at Westside Memorial, Dr. Susan Kelly. She's expecting Lisa's call. Okay, Jack said. I'll tell Lisa. Should we go straight to the hospital? Call Dr. Kelly's office first, Henry advised. They can probably get you in today, especially if you mention that it's urgent and that I referred you. After getting Dr. Kelly's number from Henry, Jack hung up. Henry stared at his phone for a moment, worried about what might be happening with Lisa. The sudden worsening of symptoms was not a good sign. Henry had a full schedule of patients that day, but he found it hard to focus. Between appointments, he checked his phone, hoping for an update from Jack or Lisa. None came. Finally, at 4 o'clock, his phone buzzed with a text message from Lisa at Westside Memorial with Dr. Kelly. Getting an MRI soon. We'll update when we know more. Henry sent back a quick message of support, then tried to concentrate on his last 2 patients of the day. By the time he was done, it was after 6, and he still hadn't heard anything more from Lisa. He decided to drive to Westside Memorial. As a fellow doctor, he could probably get information about Lisa's condition that wouldn't be shared with other family members. The hospital was busy, as hospitals always are. Henry made his way to the neurology department on the 3rd floor. He spotted Dr. Kelly talking to a nurse at the reception desk. Susan, he called, walking quickly toward her. Dr. Kelly turned, looking surprised to see him. Henry, I was just about to call you. How's Lisa? What did the MRI show? Henry asked anxiously. Dr. Kelly led him to a quiet corner of the waiting room. We're still waiting for the radiologist's official report, but I've looked at the images myself. There's a mass pressing on her spinal cord at the C7-T1 level. Henry felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. A mass near the spinal cord. Could explain all of Lisa's symptoms, the difficulty walking, the numbness, and now the vision problems if it was affecting certain nerve pathways. What kind of mass? Can you tell, he asked. Not definitively without a biopsy, Dr. Kelly said. But based on the imaging characteristics, it looks like it could be a meningioma or a schwannoma. The good news is that both of those are typically benign. Henry nodded, feeling a small measure of relief. Benign tumors were much better than malignant ones. But any tumor pressing on the spinal cord was serious and required treatment. Where is she now? He asked. In room 315, her husband is with her. I haven't given them the full results yet. I wanted to wait for the radiologist's report, but I did tell them that we found something and that we'll need to do more tests. Thank you, Susan, Henry said. You mind if I go see her? Not at all. She's been asking for you anyway. Henry took the elevator to the 3rd floor and found room 315. He knocked softly on the door before entering. Lisa was lying in the hospital bed, wearing a standard hospital gown. Jack sat in a chair beside her, holding her hand. Both looked up when Henry entered. Henry, Lisa said, with a weak smile, I guess I should have listened to you sooner. Henry moved to her bedside and gave her a gentle hug. Don't worry about that now. The important thing is that you're getting proper care. Dr. Kelly said they found something on the MRI, Jack said. His face was pale with worry. But she didn't tell us exactly what it is yet. Henry chose his words carefully. They're still waiting for the final report. But Dr. Kelly thinks it might be a type of tumor that's pressing on your spinal cord. Lisa, that would explain the problems you've been having with walking and feeling in your leg. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. A tumor? You mean like cancer? Necessarily, Henry said quickly. Many tumors in this area are benign, not cancerous. And the types Dr. Kelly suspects are usually benign. I'll need surgery, won't I? Lisa asked. Henry nodded. Most likely, yes. But let's wait for all the results before we talk about specific treatments. The good news is that you're in a great hospital with excellent doctors. Jack squeezed Lisa's hand. We're supposed to be in Hawaii right now, starting our honeymoon. Lisa gave a small laugh that sounded close to a sob. I'm sorry, Jack. Don't be ridiculous, Jack said firmly. Hawaii can wait. Getting you better can't. A nurse came in to check Lisa's vital signs. Henry stepped back to give her room to work. As he watched the nurse take Lisa's blood pressure, he thought about how quickly life could change. Just 2 days ago, Lisa had been walking down the aisle, excited about her future with Jack. Now, she was in a hospital bed, facing a serious medical condition. When the nurse left, Henry stayed with Lisa and Jack for another hour. They talked about what might happen next. More tests, consultations with surgeons, treatment options. Henry tried to be honest while still offering hope. The fact that your symptoms have developed gradually over months rather than suddenly is actually a good sign, he explained. It suggests the tumor has been growing slowly, which is typical of benign tumors. And will I be able to walk normally again after surgery? Lisa asked. There's a very good chance, yes, Henry said. The numbness and weakness are likely caused by the tumor pressing on your nerves. Once that pressure is relieved, the symptoms should improve. Around 8 o'clock, Dr. Kelly returned with the official radiology report. She confirmed what she had told Henry. Earlier, Lisa had a tumor called a schwannoma, pressing on her spinal cord. It would require surgery, but the outlook was positive. We'll schedule you for surgery in the next few days, Dr. Kelly told Lisa. Dr. Martin is our best neurosurgeon for this type of procedure. I've already spoken to him about your case, and he'll come see you tomorrow morning. Lisa looked overwhelmed, but nodded bravely. Jack hadn't let go of her hand since Henry arrived. I'll stay the night, Jack said. I'm not leaving you alone. And I'll be back first thing tomorrow, Henry promised. I want to meet Dr. Martin and hear what he has to say. As Henry prepared to leave, Lisa called him back to her bedside. Thank you, she whispered. If you hadn't noticed something was wrong at the wedding, Henry squeezed her shoulder gently. That's what family is for, and doctors. Get some rest, Lisa. I'll see you tomorrow. As Henry walked through the hospital parking lot to his car, he felt a mixture of worry and relief. Lisa was facing a difficult journey ahead, but at least now they knew what they were dealing with, and she had been diagnosed before permanent damage could occur. The next morning, Henry arrived at Westside Memorial Hospital just before 8. He had rearranged his schedule at Riverside Medical Center, asking a colleague to cover his morning appointments. He wanted to be present when Dr. Martin, the neurosurgeon, visited Lisa. When Henry reached room 315, he found Jack asleep in the chair next to Lisa's bed. Jack was still wearing his clothes from yesterday, his shirt wrinkled from the uncomfortable night. Lisa was awake, staring out the window at the cloudy sky. Morning, Henry said softly, not wanting to startle her. Lisa turned her head and attempted a smile. Hi, you came. Of course I did, Henry said, pulling up another chair. How are you feeling today? The same, Lisa replied. Still can't feel much in my right leg, and my vision gets blurry sometimes. She lowered her voice. I'm scared, Henry. Reached out and took her hand. That's completely normal. But Dr. Kelly is excellent, and Dr. Martin is one of the best neurosurgeons in the state. You're in good hands. Jack stirred and opened his eyes. It took him a moment to remember where he was. Oh, hey, Henry, he said, straightening in his chair. Don't you go get some coffee? Henry suggested. I'll stay with Lisa. Jack looked reluctant to leave, but nodded after a moment. Could use some caffeine. Do you want anything, Lisa? Just some water, please, Lisa said. After Jack left, Lisa turned to Henry with tears in her eyes. We were supposed to be in Hawaii. Today, our first full day of honeymoon. Instead, I'm in a hospital bed waiting for brain surgery. It's not brain surgery, Henry corrected gently. The tumor is on your spine, not in your brain. This is temporary, Lisa. You'll have your surgery, recover, and then you and Jack can reschedule your honeymoon. What if I can't walk properly? Again? Lisa asked, voicing her deepest fear. What if I end up paralyzed? Henry squeezed her hand. From what Dr. Kelly told me, the type of tumor you have, schwannoma, is benign and well-defined. That means it's not cancer, and it has clear borders that make it easier to remove completely. The surgeon will be very careful not to damage your spinal cord. There are always risks with surgery, but the alternative is letting the tumor continue to grow and press on your nerves, which would definitely lead to worse problems. Lisa nodded, trying to take in the information. And the recovery? How long will that take? It varies from person to person, Henry said honestly. You'll likely need physical therapy afterward to help regain strength and function. but many patients see improvement right away once the pressure on the nerves is relieved. Jack returned with coffee for himself and water for Lisa. "Did I miss anything?" "Just medical talk," Lisa said, taking a sip of water. A few minutes later, Dr. Kelly arrived with a tall man in scrubs and a white coat. "Good morning, Lisa, Jack. This is Dr. Martin, the neurosurgeon I told you about." Dr. Martin had kind eyes and a confident manner. He shook hands with Lisa and Jack, then turned to Henry. "Dr. Carter, I presume? Susan mentioned you'd be here." Henry nodded. "Henry Carter, neurologist at Riverside. Lisa is my cousin." "Lisa is lucky to have a neurologist in the family," Dr. Martin said. He turned back to Lisa. "I've reviewed your scans. You have what we call a spinal schwannoma. It's a tumor that grows from the cells that cover your nerves." "Is it cancer?" Jack asked, the worry clear in his voice. "No," Dr. Martin said firmly. "Schwannomas are almost always benign, not cancerous. They don't spread to other parts of the body, but they can cause problems by pressing on nerves in the spinal cord, which is what's happening in Lisa's case." Dr. Martin used simple terms to explain where the tumor was located and how he planned to remove it. He showed them the MRI images on a tablet, pointing out the tumor that appeared as a bright spot near Lisa's spine. "The surgery will take about 4 hours," he explained. "We'll make an incision in your back, carefully remove the bone covering, the area where the tumor is, and then remove the tumor without damaging the surrounding nerves and spinal cord." "When would you do this surgery?" Jack asked. "I have an opening tomorrow morning," Dr. Martin said. "Given the progression of Lisa's symptoms, I wouldn't recommend waiting." Lisa looked at Jack, then at Henry, seeking reassurance. Henry nodded slightly, silently telling her that he agreed with Dr. Martin's assessment. "Okay," Lisa said, her voice stronger than before. "Tomorrow morning," Dr. Martin smiled. "We'll start preparing you today. A nurse will come by to take some blood samples. You'll meet with the anesthesiologist later, and you'll need to stop eating after midnight." After Dr. Martin and Dr. Kelly left, Lisa, Jack, and Henry talked about what would happen next. Henry explained the surgery process in more detail, answering their questions as best he could. "Should we call my parents?" Lisa asked Jack.
Done.
"Yours?" Jack nodded. "I think we should. They'd want to know. But don't alarm them too much," Lisa added. "Just say I'm having a minor procedure and we had to postpone the honeymoon." Henry frowned. "Lisa, this isn't exactly minor surgery. Your family should know what's happening." Lisa sighed. "You're right. It's just... my mom will panic. You know how she is. I'll help explain everything to her," Henry promised. Terms from family members are sometimes easier to hear than from strangers. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparations. Lisa had blood drawn, spoke with the anesthesiologist, and signed consent forms. Jack called both sets of parents, who immediately said they would drive to the hospital. Henry stayed as long as he could, helping explain medical terms and procedures to Lisa, Jack, and later to the parents when they arrived. Lisa's mother, Carol, was indeed panicked when she first arrived. But Henry's calm explanations helped settle her down. Jack's parents were more composed, but clearly worried for their new daughter, Law. By evening, Lisa's room was crowded with family. Henry decided it was time for him to leave. "You need rest before tomorrow," he told Lisa. "Try to get some sleep." "If you can?" Lisa nodded. "Will you be here for the surgery?" "I have patients in the morning," Henry said. "I'll come as soon as I can. The surgery will take several hours, so I should be here before you wake up." "Thank you," Lisa said, reaching for his hand. "For everything, if you hadn't noticed." Something was wrong at the wedding. Henry squeezed her hand. "Get some rest. I'll see you tomorrow." As Henry left the hospital, the weight of the situation hit him fully. If he hadn't been at the wedding, if he hadn't noticed Lisa's unusual walk, the tumor might have continued growing undetected for weeks or months. By the time Lisa sought medical help, she might have suffered permanent nerve damage or even paralysis. Henry drove home feeling a mix of emotions. He was worried about the surgery tomorrow. Any operation near the spinal cord carried risks. But he was also grateful that the tumor had been caught relatively early, before it could do irreversible harm. At Home, Henry couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Lisa, about the wedding that was supposed to be the start of her happily ever after with Jack, and instead had become the beginning of a medical crisis. He thought about the thin line between celebration and fear, between joy and worry that all humans walked, often without knowing it. Around midnight, Henry received a text message from Jack. Just wanted to say thanks again. Lisa is finally sleeping. Parents are staying at our place tonight. Surgery scheduled for 8 a.m. We'll keep you updated. Henry texted back. Try to get some sleep too. Lisa will need your strength tomorrow. Then he set his alarm for 6 a.m., knowing he would need to see his morning patients efficiently if he wanted to reach Westside Memorial by early afternoon. Tomorrow would be a long day for everyone, but especially for Lisa, as she underwent surgery to remove the tumor that had been silently growing inside her. As Henry finally drifted off to sleep, his last thought was of Lisa walking down the aisle, beautiful and smiling, despite the invisible threat within her body. How strange life was, he thought. How strange that a wedding could lead to a diagnosis that might save a life. Henry managed to see all his morning patients in record time. He left Riverside Medical Center just after noon and drove straight to Westside Memorial Hospital. When he arrived at the surgical waiting area, he found Jack, Lisa's parents, and Jack's parents sitting together, their faces showing signs of stress and lack of sleep. "Any news?" Henry asked as he approached them. Jack stood up and shook Henry's hand. "She went into surgery right on time at 8. Dr. Martin said it would take about 4 hours, maybe longer. We haven't heard anything yet." Lisa's mother, Carol, looked up at Henry with red-rimmed eyes. "Do you think she'll be okay? Tell me the truth." Henry sat down next to Carol and spoke gently. "Dr. Martin is one of the best neurosurgeons in the state, and the type of tumor Lisa has is usually well-defined and removable. There are always risks with surgery, especially near the spine, but Lisa is young and healthy otherwise, which gives her a big advantage." Jack's father checked his watch. "It's been almost 5 hours now. Is that normal?" "Spinal surgeries can take longer than expected," Henry explained. "The surgeon has to work very carefully around the nerves and spinal cord. Taking extra time is actually a good sign. It means they're being thorough and cautious." Finished speaking, the doors to the surgical area opened, and Dr. Martin appeared in his scrubs. Everyone stood up, anxiously waiting for news. Dr. Martin looked tired but satisfied. "The surgery went well," he announced. "We were able to remove the entire tumor without damaging the surrounding structures." A collective sigh of relief went through the group. Jack stepped forward. "So she'll be okay?" "She should be," Dr. Martin said with a nod. "We won't know the full extent of her recovery until she wakes up and we can test her mobility and sensation, but I'm optimistic. The tumor came out cleanly, and it looked benign as we expected. We've sent it to pathology, too. Confirm, but I don't anticipate any surprises." "When can we see her?" Lisa's father asked. "She's in recovery now," Dr. Martin said. "She'll be moved to the ICU for tonight, just for careful monitoring. One person can visit briefly in about an hour. Tomorrow she'll be moved to a regular room, where you can all spend more time with her." Jack immediately said, "I'll be the one to visit her today." No one argued with this. After all, they had just celebrated Jack and Lisa becoming husband and wife less than a week ago. Their honeymoon might have been postponed, but their commitment to each other was already being tested and proven. Dr. Martin turned to Henry. "Dr. Carter, may I speak with you privately for a moment?" Henry followed Dr. Martin to a quiet corner of the waiting room, out of earshot of the family. "The tumor was larger than it appeared on the MRI," Dr. Martin said in a low voice. "It had wrapped around more of the nerve roots than we expected. I was able to remove it all, but it was a delicate operation." "What does that mean for her recovery?" Henry asked. "It might take longer than I initially thought," Dr. Martin admitted, "so you definitely need intensive physical therapy. There might be some lingering numbness or weakness in her right leg, possibly permanent, but without the surgery, she would have eventually lost function completely. The tumor was already causing significant compression of her spinal cord." Henry nodded, taking in this more detailed prognosis. "Thank you for being straightforward with me. Should I share this with the family now?" Dr. Martin thought for a moment. "Let's wait until tomorrow, when we see how she's doing after waking up fully from the anesthesia." No need to worry them more right now, when they're already so stressed. Henry agreed and returned to the waiting area. He shared Dr. Martin's overall positive report but kept the more concerning details to himself for now. The family was relieved and grateful, thanking Henry repeatedly for noticing Lisa's symptoms at the wedding. If you hadn't said something, who knows how long it would have been before she got help, Carol said, giving Henry a tight hug. Lisa's strong, Henry said. She would have sought help eventually. I'm just glad it happened sooner rather than later. The family decided to get some lunch in the hospital cafeteria while waiting for Lisa to be moved to the ICU. Henry joined them, answering their questions about recovery and rehabilitation as best he could without causing unnecessary worry. Later that afternoon, Jacques was allowed to visit Lisa briefly in the ICU. He returned to the waiting area looking both relieved and concerned. She's still very groggy from the anesthesia, he reported, but she squeezed my hand when I asked her to, and the nurse said, that's a good sign. By evening, the parents decided to go home to rest, planning to return the next morning. Jack insisted on staying at the hospital overnight, even though he wouldn't be allowed to stay in Lisa's room. Henry also went home, promising to return the next day. The following morning, Henry arrived at the hospital around 10. Lisa had been moved from the ICU to a regular room, and Jack was sitting by her bed when Henry entered. Lisa was awake now, pale but alert. Henry, she said with a small smile. My hero, Dr. Cousin. Henry smiled back, relieved to see her conscious and talking. How are you feeling? Like someone performed surgery on my spine, Lisa said with a weak attempt at humor. Everything hurts, and my right leg still feels weird, kind of tingly and heavy. Henry moved to the foot of the bed. Can I check something? When Lisa nodded, he pulled back the blanket slightly and touched her right foot. Can you feel this? Yes, Lisa said. It's not numb like before, just strange feeling. Can you wiggle your toes for me? Lisa concentrated, and her toes moved slightly. That's excellent, Henry said with genuine enthusiasm. The fact that you have sensation and some movement already is a very good sign. Dr. Martin arrived a few minutes later to examine Lisa. He seemed pleased with her progress. The pathology. Results confirm what we expected. The tumor was a benign schwannoma. We got it all out, so it shouldn't come back. Now we focus on your recovery. Over the next few days, Lisa began the hard work of recovery. Physical therapists visited her room twice daily, helping her with exercises to regain strength and movement in her right leg. At first, Lisa could barely stand, needing both Jack and the therapist to support her. But each day brought small improvements. Henry visited whenever he could between his own patient appointments. 1 week after the surgery, he arrived to find Lisa walking slowly down the hospital corridor, using a walker, but moving on her own. Look at you, Henry, said proudly. Making great progress? Lisa smiled, though he could see the effort it took for her to walk. The therapist says I'm doing well. But it's hard, Henry. Harder than I expected. Recovery always is, Henry said. But you're doing it, one step at a time. 2 weeks after the surgery, Lisa was discharged from the hospital. She would continue physical therapy as an outpatient, visiting the hospital 3 times a week. Jack had taken a leave of absence from work to help care for her at home. 3 months later, Henry received an invitation in the mail. Lisa and Jack were having a small party at their home to celebrate Lisa's recovery and to finally toast their marriage properly. When Henry arrived at the party, he was amazed to see Lisa greeting guests at the door, standing on her own without even a cane for support. Henry, she exclaimed, giving him a warm hug. We've been waiting for you. You look fantastic, Henry said, meaning it. The pale, weak patient in the hospital bed had been replaced by a healthy, smiling woman who moved with only a slight unevenness in her gait, something most people would never notice. Lisa led him to the living room where Jack and about 20 other close friends and family members had gathered. Jack stood up and clinked a spoon against his glass for attention. Everyone, he announced, I'd like to propose a toast. First, to my beautiful wife, who has shown incredible strength and determination these past few months. Everyone raised their glasses to Lisa, who blushed at the attention. And second, Jack continued, to Henry, who noticed something wrong at our wedding when no one else did. The doctors told us that if the tumor had gone undetected much longer, Lisa might have suffered permanent damage. Instead, she's here, recovering, dancing again. His voice cracked with emotion. Thank you for saving my wife. All eyes turned to Henry, who felt both embarrassed and deeply moved. He wasn't used to being thanked by patients. It was just his job to notice symptoms and make diagnoses. But this was different. This was family. Lisa raised her glass higher. To Henry, my cousin, and my hero. Sometimes the most important wedding gift isn't on the registry. As everyone drank to his health, Henry thought about how life could change. In an instant, from a wedding celebration to a hospital room, from joy to fear, and back to joy again. And he thought about how lucky he was to have been there. At that wedding, with the knowledge to notice what others didn't see, sometimes he realized being a doctor wasn't just about treating patients in a hospital. Sometimes it was about seeing the signs of trouble in unexpected places, even under a wedding dress.